Oh man, wouldn't you know it? I'm doing a catch up session, and the last story just happens to be full of numbers. But I gotta do it. It's bugging me. I've been trying to do this story for days. As a matter of fact, October 3rd is when I started seeing it. And this is Reason.com. We have Jacob Sullum. And if you ever stumble across my videos and realize that I'm reading you verbatim and you got a problem with that, let me know. I will never do it again. I don't know if I'm actually breaking copyright violations by doing this because everybody does it, so I'm just assuming that it's okay. Credit where credit's due. The article's called Arrest Numbers Reflect Growing Pot Tolerance. I'll try my hardest not to comment too much because this is straight up numbers, facts. This guy is kind of throwing down a little bit of, hey, what up, here and there, but it's not really, you're not getting much else but numbers and facts here. I'm about to hit you with it. Make your own assessment, make your own judgment, make your own feelings, feel whatever you feel about it. I feel kind of beat. I feel like this is what I feel like after I read this thing. I feel like what you're looking at is like if you take a sugar cube that's like as big as your table, and then sit that out on the slab out in your driveway, and then it starts raining, and it starts kind of slow at first, and it starts slowly eating away at that sugar cube. And then the rain starts falling a little harder, and more of that sugar cube starts melting away. What that sugar cube represents is arrests for marijuana, and what the rain intensity represents is areas of decriminalization and legalization that have made it so arrests for marijuana isn't even a thing anymore. It's not even possible. And then people that are just like doing what they should and not arresting people for marijuana. What you're gonna see is during that storm. Here I am. I'm commenting like crazy. I didn't fucking start reading this shit yet, but yeah. Eventually, there's gonna be a big downpour that's just gonna rip that fucking cube down big time. And there's been a couple of those already. And you'll hear that later on. But here we go. So, FBI statistics released last week show that the number of marijuana arrests in the United States, after rising slightly in 2014, fell by 8% last year. That's a big number, reaching the lowest level in 2 decades. The total was nevertheless more than twice the number in 1991 before the national cannabis crackdown that peaked in 2007. The number of marijuana arrests has fallen more or less steadily since then, reflecting a growing consensus that cannabis consumers should not be treated as criminals. The FBI's numbers indicate that police across the country made 643,121 marijuana arrests in 2015, 26% fewer than 2007, total of 872,720. As usual, the vast majority of pot arrests, almost 9 out of 10, were for possession, as opposed to the sale or cultivation. Well, it's obvious. You're just going to run into more people that actually have a joint in their pocket or whatever. You're not just going to bump into somebody, I don't know. I mean, that's just an obvious number. Of course, 9 out of 10 were for possession. It almost seems impossible for that number to be too much less than say 6 out of 10 because they don't actively go after the cultivation and sales. They'll say anybody that had marijuana on them at all was selling it. That's just part of your ticket. You got to fight that first, and they just get that knocked off. So a 2006 analysis by the Sentencing Project Ryan King and Mark Maurer found that less than 6% of marijuana arrests led to a felony conviction. But those 6% was because they kept getting harassed and kept getting, boxed into a corner because they couldn't really get out of the trouble. Next thing you know, they're in prison because after getting caught so many times as a felony, even if that's not the real thing that you got, harassed for in the first place. So, all right, let's get back to it. It's not clear exactly why police started targeting cannabis consumers with renewed zeal in the early 90s. Changes in marijuana use did not account for the surge in arrests. To the contrary, the risk of arrest for the average cannabis consumers rose substantially between 91 and 2007, when the number of marijuana arrests tripled. From 91 to 2007, numbers tripled. That's when you had the Clinton and then the Bush. Clinton ramping up the drug war, and then Bush ramping it up even more. Even with the outset of California having legalized medical marijuana in the 90s, that didn't affect the fact that people were still having massive arrests all over California. Marijuana accounted for 52% of all drug arrests by 2010, up from less than 29% in 1991. So from 91 to 2010, marijuana arrests went from like 1 out of 3 to over half of everybody that got arrested for drugs, period. Quote, since 1990, King and Maurer noted, quote, the primary focus of the war on drugs has shifted to low-level marijuana offenses. During the study period, 90 through 2002, 82% increase in drug arrests nationally, 450,000, was for marijuana offenses. And virtually all of that increase was in possession offenses. So whenever those right-wingers get out there and be like, oh, no one's in jail for possession, millions of people are in jail for possession every day. They might not be in there for years or whatever, but 6% of them, I believe they said, go on to be in a situation of felony conviction. Last year, the lion's share of drug arrests, 43%, still involved marijuana. Still, what the fuck? 43% of all drug arrests? Marijuana is not a drug. It ain't a drug, it's medicine, it's a herb. 43% of all drug arrests are marijuana, man. This is ridiculous. But that percentage has been dropping since 2010. In some jurisdictions, police no longer have the option of arresting adults for possession of small amounts of marijuana. Colorado 2012 legalization initiative eliminated all penalties in possession for possession of up to an ounce by adults 21 and older, which was previously a petty offense. The Drug Policy Alliance found that the number of marijuana possession cases in Colorado fell by 84% between 2010 and 2014, from 9,011 to 1,464. From here on out, we're going to start seeing a lot of these comparison numbers, and wow, some of them are mind-blowing. So mind-blowing that you're wondering where there's places where actually arrests have to be increasing a little bit just to stave off these decreases. Alright, so the change in Washington state, where voters also approved legalization in 2012, was even more dramatic. According to the ACLU of Washington, marijuana possession cases fell from 6,879 in 2011 to just 120 in 2013. A 98% drop. 120 compared to almost 7,000. Oregon, where voters approved legalization in 2014 to criminalize possession of an ounce or less back in 73, making it a violation subject to a fine rather than an offense for which someone can be arrested. Data from Oregon State Police nevertheless show a big drop in pot busts after legalization take effect, from 4,273 whoa, yeah, my copy is blown out there. I really don't know what happened to my copy. I apologize for that, Oregon. But we're talking about 2014. Probably, we don't know. I'm sorry. I that completely dropped the ball there. I've read this copy and I've edited this copy, and somehow I missed that shit. And I don't even know how. I'm gonna have to get on this. That's a serious number. It's a big deal. We really, technically, we don't give a fuck. All right, Oregon, we don't really give a shit. You've been decriminalized since 1973. So if you had 4,273 fucking marijuana arrests before your legalization in 2014, something's wrong with that. All right, so back to the copy that's apparently blew a hole out, had a flat tire. I don't know. I'm gonna look at this video later and probably want to just delete it because I don't edit this shit, and maybe someday I will. But that just made me really mad. Some people might understand. I don't know. Back to it. Alaska, the other state where legalization initiative passed in 2014, also decriminalized possession in the 70s. According to the Alaska Department of Public Safety, marijuana-related arrests fell from 716 in 2014 to 290 in 2015. That don't sound like that big of a drop, man. And Charlotte Green is also looking at 50 some odd years, man. The biggest advocate for marijuana ever to quit TV anchoring by saying fuck it. Washington, D.C., decriminalization passed in 2014 and legalized possession, home cultivation, and sharing in 2015 as a result of an initiative approved by the previous year. Possession arrests plunged from more than 2,000 in 2011 to fewer than 10 last year. That's where you really see some municipalities just saying, you know what? No. I don't care. I don't care if you walk around town, you know, with a 20-foot long blunt. We're not arresting you for marijuana. Not really. But anyway, that's still awesome. I mean, 10 arrests, still too many. Still 10 too many. But go DC. A ballot initiative approved by Massachusetts voters in 2008 made possession of less than an ounce of citable offense punishable by a $100 fine. According to the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, marijuana arrests fell precipitously from 10,260 in 2008 to 2,746 in 2009. By contrast, after Maine's legislator made possession of up to 2.5 ounces, a civil infraction in 2009, arrests fell only slightly. I mean, I don't know. I just get really emotional when I look at numbers. It fell from 10,260 in 2008. I always say that wrong. 2008 to 2,748. 2,748 just sounds like a lot of arrests for marijuana after you I don't know. It's just a lot. That's too much. California and New York City have been bigger contributors to the downward trend in marijuana arrests, according to more of it, accounting for more of it than all other jurisdictions combined. After California legislators made possession of an ounce or less, a civil infraction in 2010, misdemeanor marijuana arrests fell from 54,849 to 7,764. So you just got rid of like 40,000 plus just people that ain't going to court, jail, and all that bullshit. Low-level marijuana possession arrests in New York Police Department, meanwhile, fell from more than 50,000 in 2011 to fewer than 17,000 last year. Once again, about 35,000 people just like, whew, not going to court, not going to jail, not tying up the system. That change resulted not from new legislation, but from the city's decision to start respecting the state decriminalization law passed 4 decades ago after flouting it for a decade and a half. So you pass a decriminalization thing, and then for a decade and a half you're like, look at us, we decriminalized marijuana, but you didn't see any drops in arrests for 4 decades after that. All right, anyway, these are just the most conspicuous examples of jurisdictions that have recently started taking a less repressive approach to marijuana. The national trend, which gave us 229,509 fewer marijuana arrests last year than 2007, clearly goes behind these places. It includes every city that has decided minor marijuana offenses should not be a high law enforcement priority because police resources are better used to catch predatory criminals. Still, 640,121 marijuana arrests is a little bit ridiculous, America. We can do better than that. We can be zero. While the numbers are thankfully dropping over time, quote, says Marijuana Majority Chairman Tom Engel, it's alarming and simply unacceptable that someone is harassed by the police just for marijuana every 49 seconds in this country. Polls now consistently show that a growing majority of Americans support full legalization, and it's about time more politicians and law enforcement caught up. Our movement is set to more than double the number of states with legalization this November, and we won't stop pushing until the day when no one is put into handcuffs or cages just because they choose to consume cannabis. In America, where the hypocrisy is really high because you have several states that are legal, more to come, a lot of 25, half the states in this country, and most of the population live in an area where medical marijuana is legal. It's about time to take this shit right off the CSA and get serious about regulating recreational marijuana and just call this shit something different, man. I'd be up for a whole new name if you want to, but this whole marijuana shit's starting to get a little bit annoying. Ganja's cool. Can we just call it cannabis? That's what it is. That's what the actual name of the plant is. So if you would, please help in my effort to get the word out that on 4/20/2017, this 4/20, everybody call the DEA and tell them, just take it off the schedule. We don't need it on Schedule 1. It don't kill anybody. It's not hurting the kids. The opiates are hurting the kids. The benzodiazepines they're hurting the kids. All this Adderall's hurting the kids. All these pharmaceutical drugs are hurting the kids. The marijuana is not hurting anybody. It's medicine. Get over it.